like to introduce myself. My name is Andrew Kerr. I chair the Senior Services Committee for the town of Red Hook. Good morning to everyone. What the Senior Services Committee does is their task is to try and act as a liaison for resource information to senior citizens in the community. So from time to time we'll put on special events, have guest speakers, presentations that are really important topics pertinent to senior citizens in our community. I want to thank everyone for coming out here today. I'm glad that the weather is positive as we head into what's probably be a crisp winter. We're very, very fortunate today to have the speaker that we have talking about a very, very significant topic that impacts not just senior citizens within our community, but transcends communities all over the country. Very pleased to have today Sergeant Vincent Stelmach from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office. Officer Stelmach just told me that he's celebrating his 30th anniversary with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, so obviously his wealth of information and expertise are unquestionable. We were fortunate to have him last year to give this presentation. It was very, very well received. Myself, I've learned a lot of information about pertinent topics. I think as we go into holiday season, especially, we have to be really savvy and cautious about various situations that we have to be aware of regarding safety with senior citizens. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Officer Stelmach. Thank you very much for coming today. And before he begins, if anyone does have any type of cell phone or equipment, if I could just ask you to kindly to put it on vibrate or silent so it won't interrupt his presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Andrew said, my name is Vincent Stelmach. I'm with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office. I recently celebrated my 30th anniversary there. I worked in the county jail for 4 years, and I worked as a patrol officer for 10. I worked in detectives as a criminal investigator for 14 years, and for the last 2, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant. I live up here in Red Hook as well, just coincidentally. I do these presentations throughout the county, but I do live up here in Red Hook as well. Was anybody here last year when we did this? Which is probably good. There's really not much new. There's a lot of stuff out there, but why change it if it still works? All these scams and crimes people commit, they're still working, they're still using it. Does everyone know how 911 actually works? A lot of people don't. They have no idea, right? You pick up the phone, you call 911. They know your address right away. It's automatic. That's why Dutchess County has enhanced 911. Basically how it works is they know where you are. They'll ask you your name, what the emergency is. They make sure they have a good phone number callback for you. And then they conduct what they call a poll. And they'll get on the radio and they'll say Dutchess County 911 to any police car in the vicinity of Route 9 and Metzger Road in the town of Red Hook. Now in Red Hook, you're fortunate, you have 3 agencies that can respond, police-wise. You have the village police, of course, within the village. You have the county sheriff and state police. So you may have one police car say, I'm at Route 9 at Hannaford's, another police officer might say, I'm on 199, and the closest car will get the response. So up here, as I said, you're fortunate. You get a great response from the agencies.
Do they know my address if I call from a cell phone?
Initially, no, but they have the technology where they can locate you very quickly through GPS, basically. So we've had calls in the middle of the woods, and they can't, nail it down to an address, but very quickly they can find out. It's automatic. Dutchess County, just so you know, 860 square miles. We have a population of about 300,000.
Sure. Yeah, before you leave the 911, several years ago, I think it was, within the first several years that they put 911 in here, I had called to explain that I was observing a burglary in process, and I was told to call the sheriff, and I wasn't in any position to call the sheriff because I didn't know what the number was.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I things changed since then? Or-
Yes, I have to believe that, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because right away, I mean, they ask, what's your emergency? So I'm gonna say, you know, that might have been in its infancy when it first went online.
It was, in the first couple of years.
That's very odd that a dispatcher would say that. Because they should get right on and find you the nearest police car and get right on it. Again, the county's 860 square miles, about 300,000 population. It's a big county, a lot of people. We have about 40-plus miles of Hudson Riverfront. At the sheriff's office, we're fortunate to have a lot of specialty units. We have a large marine unit that control the rivers and the lakes. We have ATV squads that can get out to the woods, a couple of motorcycles, bicycles. We have an ESU squad, which is joint with other police departments in the county. A dive team, which is also joint with other police departments in the county. We have a lot of resources here. We're very fortunate. And we have the support, of course, of the county executive and the sheriff. What a lot of you are probably wondering is any kind of latest scams that go on, particularly against seniors. Have any of you ever been victimized or attempted?
You keep calling.
They call constantly. They call constantly. Like I said, there's not a lot new, but the old stuff's still working. The foreign lottery.
I just want to say about 3 years ago, my mother-in-law actually had someone call on the phone, and they pretended to be my son. And apparently, I don't know how they got the information, perhaps through Facebook, but it even sounded like my son. Said that he'd had an accident, he was in Canada, and he needed $3,000 wired immediately. Fortunately, she had the foresight to speak to my sister-in-laws, and they said, that doesn't sound right. They were able to get a hold of my son and said, definitely not. I'm
Right.
alive and well and not there. And they were able to stop the transfer of the money. But
Very
yeah,
fortunate.
Yeah.
That's probably the most common one, particularly with seniors lately.
Uh-huh.
You'll get a phone call, and any one of you in this room might have 10, 15 grandchildren, and maybe you don't get to see them all the time. And all somebody has to know is a first name, and they'll call you and, oh, this is Justin. Remember me? And maybe you haven't seen Justin in a few years. And the first thing is, please don't tell my parents. They'll be so mad.
Right, exactly.
I wrecked my car and I need $3,000 or to get back into the U.S. or I got in trouble, I shoplifted, and I got arrested. I need $1,000 bail money. And your grandparent, it's your grandchild, you're going to want to help them, right?
No, buck up.
As you stole, pay the price. And it's always, all of these, almost always, is wire transfer money. They'll even tell you where the nearest Western Union is.
Yeah.
Oh, you live in Red Hook? Oh, and they're looking in front of a Google map, and they're going to tell you right where that Western Union is. A similar one is fairly recent, funeral scams. You'll get a phone call. Unfortunately, a loved one may have passed recently, and all anybody has to do is read the obituary and read who the surviving relatives are, and they start making phone calls. And they'll pretend to be from a business or a credit agency. And they'll say, I'm very sorry for your loss, and blah, blah, blah. But your brother, your spouse, whoever it may have been who passed, he owed us $3,000. We really don't want to, make it messy. We just want to get it paid. You're in mourning, and you're not necessarily thinking clear. What do? You wire them the money to take care of the debt. That's another way. For a lottery, have any of you ever been solicited for the Canadian lottery or the English lottery? You get an email, you get a phone call that you won $300,000, and that's great. And even if you don't remember entering, you're going to go with it. But since it's an international event, there's a tax involved that you have to pay up front. Usually $3,000. Always seems to be the mark. When you're wiring money, I think $3,000 is a flag If it's any more than that, then it's like a Western Union company will look into it a little further. It's always wiring money. This time of year, especially going into winter, a lot of scams have to do with utilities. You'll get a call, someone identifies himself from Central Hudson. We're gonna shut your electric off. You didn't pay your bill. Wire that money right now, and it won't get shut off. It's getting cold out. Who wants no heat or power? Or someone may even show up at your door. I'm from Central Hudson, I have to come in and check your electric in the basement, and if you're uncomfortable, don't let them in. Don't let them in at all. Call us. Call 911, call the local police, call the sheriff, call the state.
Question, in each case, you're talking about wiring money, and isn't that traceable at the recipient's end?
You may think you're wiring it somewhere, it's probably going to Canada or elsewhere. It's not always as it appears.
Well, because I don't understand how a scam like that can work. I mean, let's say I recognize it as a scam and I report it. Isn't there some way to apprehend the recipient on this?
If you can put it all together and you know, let's say you're wiring that money, if it's local, we can try. But usually by the time the money is wired, then the victim starts thinking, wow, should I have done that? And then we get a call.
Oh.
And the person on the other end that's getting the money just has to walk in with anything with his name on it. If you wired it to James Brown in
Right.
Pittsburgh, they're probably gonna have somebody with a fake ID of
So they
James
don't have to
Brown.
give an address or a phone number
No,
to
they just
receive
go,
the money?
just
So
go to
okay, so I have to, let's say I recognize it, as soon as I get the call, I recognize that it's a scam and I play along with it, I call the sheriff and tell him, listen, I'm told to wire this thing, $3,000 to James Brown at such and such. Can't they set up a sting operation?
We have, and we've had a few successful
Okay.
operations like that when it's local. Unfortunately, it's usually not local, so by the time it occurs,
All right, because sometimes we get so tired of these calls that we just start playing along with it.
yeah, but we've had successful ones. The most recent, I think, was probably about a year ago, and it was in Millbrook. And we had someone there waiting, and the company was aware, that we were there and we were present, and when the person came to do it, we were able to apprehend them, so it was successful. But more often than not, it's after the fact and the money is gone.
What percent of attempts pay off? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I would have to say far less than 10, probably less than 5, even lower. But if you get one person,
I'm gonna say it's still worth doing.
so we're doing, and they keep doing it.
Oh, boy.
Especially the international. There's other countries in the world that it's government-sponsored activity. Because us Americans, we're stupid and rich. And we have money, all of us are just so rich. And they have people that just sit at phones and computers all day long, that's their job.
And I know Officer Stelmach and I were talking before that a lot of this, like it's a fishing expedition. So many times when people see the email and you realize that, oh, right away I can tell by the broken language in the email and the content that's saying I have $1 million I want to invest somewhere, you laugh at it, but the minute you've opened up that email, you've already given them some information that might help them attempt to now get into your computer. So even though you even realize that it's a scam, you have to be really cautious these days not to even venture into the email. So if you see anything really, really suspicious, you should just hold off. You shouldn't open that email. What I was curious about, I don't know if you're going to get to it, what I've noticed personally is an uprise in people sending out emails disguising themselves as big businesses, saying that, your account is in jeopardy, you owe us money. So I've gotten false emails claiming that they're American Express, that I owe money past due, and I would call my account American Express, and they would say, absolutely not, your account is fine, and we've been having records of these type of situations. Central Hudson, I received an email about that, that, your electrical account is past due. And so there's a certain flavor more of, to try and almost validate the scam I don't know how they did it, but they're pretending that they're a big business. And it comes across that way, and I believed it, but what I first did is, obviously, I called up, the business itself. And so it's almost like a catch-22, because I'm wondering why, it sounds good, but then wouldn't it be the first response for people is, oh, okay, let me call that business to talk to them about my account. And when you call them, well, we're looking in your records and your account's
And you're
fine. Has there been an upswing with that? Have you noticed that more in terms of scams trying to
Utilities in particular.
hide behind big business names?
Utilities in particular.
Utilities, okay.
And some of these people are so sophisticated, like with a credit card company, they can have you go to a particular site and it'll look very much like
Right, yep,
that certain
Yep.
website that you use for Capital One
Yep.
or GE, and it'll look so much like it. And then you go to sign in, and then they have your sign-in name and your passwords. And
That's what these scams from different construction companies that call your house and, we're in your area today, we're either chimneys or we're window manufacturers and all this kind of stuff. I've had them calling me, is there a list, does the sheriff have a list of any companies that are known to be scamming seniors?
when we do, we put it out publicly. We'll do a press release if a certain company, it's often blacktop companies, and chimney
Yes,
chimney work.
yeah, just a few weeks ago, I got something from, we're in your area, and,
Right. And a lot of that's probably legitimate, and they're probably just trying to find work, and that's great. But with the chimney, the scam with the chimney is they'll tell you, they'll do a free inspection for you. And then maybe they can proceed with a cleaning or any work you might need. And they will scare the death out of you, because they'll tell you what bad shape your chimney's in, and your flue is damaged, and you need a new liner, that's gonna cost you $4,000. If you don't know the company personally, make sure somebody you know knows them. Because are you gonna get up on the roof and look down the chimney for sure? And, I had it happen to me, a company wanted to sell me the blacktop. You'll think you're getting your driveway fully blacktopped, and you won't understand the wording, and they'll get the money up front, and they'll come do a seal coat. So you'll pay $7,000 for a $300 job. They'll get so intimidating that they'll want to take you to the bank. And this happens a lot with seniors, unfortunately. You have a loan, you get intimidated, oh, I'll drive you to the bank, to your ATM machine, and they get their money. They're not robbing you by that intimidation. And if they don't do the work they promise, we can help with that. We work on those all the time. When you're asked to call a phone number for any particular reason, if you're skeptical of it, we all know 900 numbers. 900 exchanges are toll calls, very expensive. There's other exchanges that are. I don't have a list, but if you don't recognize it, I would not call it.
Is 888 a free?
Generally speaking, yes. The one I have listed here is 809 is another one. And all you have to do is get you to call it for any reason. And it could be, this is Central Hudson. You owe us $200, or we're gonna shut your electric off. Anything like that. Call this number to rectify the situation. And when you call it the first minute, some of these calls are hundreds of dollars a minute.
Why are they so expensive? I don't understand. Are they hooking up to somebody calling abroad or what? Why,
There are just businesses that charge for the use of that line. Just like a 900 call. For escorts or anything like that you have to pay. And most of the 900 calls, most of the time, you'll see it in fine print on the bottom. It says $3 per minute or $10 per minute. Some of them are, like I said.
all right, so if I call a 900 number, what is it going to cost my,
It's gonna be on your phone bill.
it's going to be on my phone bill? So I have an unlimited number of calls. long distance or whatever. So is it gonna cost me anything?
Yes. There's certain exchanges. 900 is always one of them. And the other one, as I said, I had here 809.
There's,
And you get your phone bill,
years ago,
$700, and
I think even before the technological world really came in fruition, you know, computers and email and phones, years ago especially, those were really, really damaging. I mean, you know, horoscope hotlines, this type of hotline, and it would all be 900, you know, phone, you know, exchanges. In fact, I could just talk for a moment on a personal situation. My mother at the time was living down in the Bronx by herself, and I had a home health aide who I had hired to come and watch her. My mother was a very nocturnal person, would sleep in the morning. Her monthly phone bill would usually range around $18 to $20 a month. I would see her on weekends. I drove down one weekend, I come to the door, and she hands me a phone bill for $800. And I look at the times of the calls, and they were all during the morning hours when the home health aide was there while my mother was asleep. So push came to shove, I had to fight with the home health aide company, proving that it was, you know, my mother wasn't calling a horoscope hotline or a Jamaica hotline at 9:30 a.m. But so for people that maybe even get outside help to come in, it's very, you got to be very, really cautious. You know, so use even the caregiver here for a parent. You know, if you are going to be getting outside help, you really, really want to make sure and watch, you know, what's transpiring. And even after that event, I went to the home health agency and I actually fought them and I told them, look, you billed Medicare for some 400 minutes or whatever of time of all these phone calls, that you should give Medicare the money back for the alleged services, and they did. You know, they did. So, you know, people are very savvy. You know, people are really savvy.
And getting back to, again, I don't want to pick on the utilities too much, but the utilities or construction companies, another common, I call it scheme, but all they have to do is just keep you busy at your front door. Especially if they know you're alone. And while they're talking and keeping you busy, someone else is going around to the back of your house. And usually quickly, they're going to run in, they're going to grab your purse off the kitchen counter, your wallet, run to the bedroom, grab a jewelry box real quick. They're at your door and you're not interested, tell them to go away.
You know what they also have too? I live in the woods in Rhinebeck where, you know, it's pretty dark, it's not too light. They'll have like young kids around this time of the year, like college age kids, coming wanting you to sign for whatever, some ecological thing that they're doing.
Uh-huh.
And they're really very nice, they're very polite, but then at the end they'll say, you know, and we want you to support us,
Yes.
it'll cost, you know, could you make a $25 donation? And so, that happened to me a couple of times.
Yeah, salesman basically.
And I go, you know what, I don't think so. So now I don't even.
Yeah, nothing that illegal about it,
Right, but it's really
get a lot
kind
of
of
it right,
scary
but-
because I'm alone. Now, I mean, if they wanted to come into the house, I mean, the first time I opened the door, because, you know, kind of the typical, they're very nice looking, they're very verbal, blah, 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 you know. But then after a while, I thought, that's merely not a good idea to open the door, to open the storm door. You know,
no, it's not.
No, it's not a good idea to open
No.
it, no. So, and I don't know where they go, because I can watch them from the front of my house. I mean, they don't go to every single one, they just have a way of hitting certain, I've asked friends that live down the
Yeah,
street.
if they do
Did
a-
anybody stop by your house? She goes, no.
You can do a little research ahead of time and
Right,
try to find
right.
out the demographics of who lives
Right.
there, and I'll say it several times this morning probably. Whenever you're in doubt, call us.
Oh, wow.
If that kid comes to the door, even if you get him, it's, no, I'm not interested, and he goes away. If you think there's the slightest chance
Right.
that they're up to no good, call us.
911 or the sheriff's department?
Either, whichever you prefer.
Because I don't know the sheriff's number.
On this scam where somebody comes to the door and garners your attention, you say the second person comes around the back side of the house, does he gain entry through open window or open door, or these break-ins, or?
For something like that, which is not common, they would just be looking for an open door. No.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm home during the day, I don't lock any of my doors, I'm home.
All right. Well,
So if I'm at the front door talking to someone and they have 5-10 minutes to sneak around and run in the back door quick, and just look for a purse or a wallet real quick. Doesn't happen a lot.
Wow.
And I'll talk about burglary in a few minutes, a little further.
How safe is putting your car keys on the front seat? So you remember what,
I
I'm
wouldn't
kidding.
wouldn't recommend it.
I'm kidding. I know.
Definitely wouldn't
That's the
recommend
first
it.
place anybody would look, would be under your front seat.
Under the seat, under the visor, under the mat.
Right.
Mhm. Touching on the internet again. Do you all know what a hyperlink is? If I use that term, hyperlink, it's usually in blue writing and it's underlined. And if you're reading an email that I sent you and I say, Mr. Johnson, check out this website, I think you'd be interested. And then it'll be a hyperlink. It's, like I said, it's usually blue writing and it's underlined. And then all you have to do is click on that hyperlink and it will take you to the website I'm recommending. If you don't know who sent you a particular email, or you're at all nervous about it, never click on the hyperlink. Very, very common way. You may get an email again from a utility, from a credit card company. Your account is overdue. We're going to shut your power off. We're going to, anything like that. Close your account. Click on this hyperlink to move forward and remedy the situation. And you click on the hyperlink, and they've just taken control of your computer. They can go in and see everything on your computer. All your email contacts, if you do any kind of banking or bill pay. Personally, I pay all my bills with my computer. I'm just very cautious about it.
Right, but think how much information you have on the computer, whether you pay your bills, I get my books out of the library, I mean, everything.
Everything.
So they have probably more on me than I know about.
Mhm.
You know.
When I talk about these hyperlinks, very, very, very dangerous. You know, sometimes I will call a friend to say, did you send me this link? Just to verify, you know, somebody wanted me to see something, I'm fine with that, but I want to make sure I know where I'm going on the internet. It's a dangerous place.
They say not to use the same, you know, a security code or whatever. But how many, you know, can you keep and kind of remember? You have to keep a
I
book
must
of them.
have, between personal and work,
I know.
I must have 50 passwords for
Right.
different things.
And I try switching them around, but then I forget which one is switched around,
Mhm.
you know?
You got to keep track, yeah.
Uh,
Some places will make you change it every
I
60
know.
days, 90
Yeah.
days.
Interesting, just in the last week, I got an email from a fellow I knew, and it also showed some of the other people on the distribution there,
Mhm.
which I knew several. Then I looked at it and I thought, what the hell is he sending me this stuff for? So I sent him an email back and he denied sending that. But then as I looked at it closer, it was his first and last name that showed up there, but the email address was slightly different. But it also had hyperlinks in there.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is if you really don't scrutinize that, I can see logging on, because generally I don't question the information that comes from people I know.
Right.
They'll say, and there will be half the time hyperlinks, and I'll just click on them and open them.
Yeah, like I said, sometimes I'll even call people to verify, did you send me this?
Wow.
Because they can get into your computer world very easily
I
by
guess
clicking
I have
on
to-
that. And what had happened to your friend who sent you that, or not necessarily, he didn't necessarily send you that, but
He did.
someone basically hijacked his
Yeah.
email account and got all his contacts. Mr. Karen and I were talking about it earlier. And that's just a whole nother maybe 20, 50, 100 people for that person to try to victimize.
So, and in order to get rid of that, you have to then change your email address or switch it some way so they don't have it anymore, so they can't keep using it. All right.
You would have to, yeah. But chances are,
They don't.
if you don't respond and you ignore it, just delete when they send you
Uh-huh.
one or maybe two, they're gonna move on to another
Okay.
group. Any of you use Facebook in the room? Play games on Facebook?
No. I
No
refuse.
games?
I don't even put any information on mine, no picture, nothing.
If you do, just so you're aware, a lot of these new, it's even getting beyond me, there's so many of these sites now, but Facebook is so common. And a lot of people like the games, you know, the Scrabble, the words, and the Candy Crush. When you have a Facebook account and you use these games and separate things, they are separate. They are not owned by Facebook. These, I'll say Candy Crush, for example. Whoever created it pays Facebook to let them have the game on the side of Facebook.
Our sent a bulletin saying, don't list your birth date on Facebook.
I wouldn't. I don't have anything.
Well, when I signed up years back, they wouldn't take my birth date, so I put my daughter's.
Yeah, you know, ones that ask me to look like that, same thing, I just put something false in there, like I was born in 1901 or something. As long as there's a date in there. So,
I just wondered, what method do you use to keep a record of your passwords? Because
Oh.
I have a lot of them too, like 30 or...
I keep a list of them at work,
Well, where do you keep it? On the computer or on a hard copy?
hard copy paper.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I do too. Because if you keep them on a computer...
And I actually code it so that if somebody got a hold of it, they wouldn't know what.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
For example, I have a Capital One credit card. That's one of my credit cards.
yeah.
And I'll put C1, and then whatever my sign-on is, and in my particular case, I think it's V Stelmach, my first initial and name, and I'll put VS, and then the passcode. So if you looked at it, you would just see C1, VS, and then some other letters and numbers, and you really wouldn't know what.
Well,
I
you
use
you
one-
get some money, it can be a problem.
I use one
Hard
of
to
these
keep up.
little telephone books, you know, little ones that you
Yeah.
can carry with you, because then
Yeah.
I know, all right, Capital One, all right, that's under C. All right,
Yeah, and just
you know,
keep it in a
something
safe
at
place and-
Macy's put them there, or whatever, but it's just little, and it's narrow, and then I have to take with me when I travel. Because if I need the number,
You need somebody, yeah.
There's got to be a method so that they're fairly easy to change.
right.
You should never have on your computer though, should you?
I wouldn't, no.
Yeah.
So,
I was just thinking from the last 2 minutes of conversation here, that among all the artifacts and items that we have in our house, you break into our house, the most valuable thing you can steal would be my desktop computer. Now, all my accounts, all my passwords, and all you have to do is look at the file and say passwords, and you open that up, and there they all are.
yeah. Or like I said, the hyperlink. If you open an email that
That's it. They've all-
somebody was phishing with a PH, as Mr. Kerr said, that's what they're doing. They're phishing. They're just looking for what they can get out of you.
Needs to be in the safe.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't name
You don't want that on your
file
computer.
passwords.
Definitely not on your computer.
Good thing you came today, right?
That'll clean it up.
And as I was talking about Facebook, a couple people nodded their heads as far as the games and whatnot. You need to go into your privacy settings for Facebook. And for each, they call it an app, maybe Candy Crush, maybe Scrabble, all these different games or whatever you use, they all have their own settings on what you can share and what other people can see. And just go into every one of them and just click on everything that basically, nobody can see anything.
That's if you know how to do that. I still
Yeah.
haven't figured it out, that's why I haven't put anything on it.
Yeah, if you don't know, then don't put anything on it, but, or have somebody give you a hand. Prescriptions, big topic anymore in the county. You hear about drug problems, you read in the news, it's not just Red Hook, it's the whole area, the heroin epidemic, it is not just Red Hook. If any of you have prescriptions in your house, you really need to safeguard them. A lot of the problems we have is these kids in heroin, they're all 19, 20, 21 years old. And nowadays they'll start recreationally by taking these pills. There's OxyContin and Percocet and all these very, very powerful painkillers. So some of these pills are $20 a piece on the street. And if they know that grandma or grandpa might have some of them, and they enjoy using them, they're gonna take them from you.
What about high blood pressure, cholesterol, or those, they're only going for the painkillers?
Yeah, pretty much. And the problem in the world is, at some point, they run out of ways to get these pills. And someone tells them, well, this is heroin. I know it's kind of scary, but try this because it gives the same effect as those painkillers, and it does. They're all opiates. And then somebody will get them to try heroin, and then they're hooked. And when they get to that, they will do anything to get it. They will steal from grandma, grandpa, parents, relatives, anyone, neighbors. Keep a tight lid on those drugs. And why I'm on the drugs, not a recent scam, it's always going on, but counterfeit drugs online. We all know how expensive drugs are. Going to CVS, going to Rite Aid, wherever, and some people unfortunately have to decide, do I eat or do I get my medicine? Be careful if you try to buy prescriptions online. Check with your doctor at least and say, you know, I found a place where I can get the medication I need for $10 a month instead of $200. Check with your doctors. Because you go online and you purchase it and it's not what it's supposed to be. Anyone ever been the victim of burglary? Have your house broken into? I see a head nod. You live up here in Red Hook? How long ago?
Oh, Lord. Probably about 3 years now.
Yeah,
Broad daylight.
not a good feeling.
Two
Nobody was
people.
home?
I was home, so was with my little boy.
You were home?
Broad daylight, and lived like setback. Tell you my quick story so everybody knows because it's scary. On the highway, you can see my house in the winter, and some folks have been coming around a lot, banging on your door, leaving literature. So when this happened, I was getting my son dressed, and I said I'm not going to answer it. And I looked out, went to the back of the house, looked down, saw the car, saw the person in the car, thinking, never registered there's somebody banging on the door, but there's somebody in the car. So let them go and stayed in the back room. The car pulled out, and I went back in my living room, and he was in my living room standing behind my Christmas tree.
Really?
He had snapped the lock on my sliding glass doors. And I had a gigantic German Shepherd downstairs in the garage jumping on the doors. And I put him down there because I just vacuumed him. So all those things that you think would never happen, you just,
Yeah.
you know, and I did watch him pull out. I actually still remember the license plate number. Don't ask me why I looked at it. But I saw a poodle in the rearview mirror and all those things you guys say, think, you know, maybe you think it'll come to you, and it did. But it was very scary.
Was he caught? eventually, or-
Actually, he had been going around, he had just robbed a house on White Schoolhouse Road, took an antique sewing machine. What they actually did, I'm trying to think, 'cause there was a second part to that. I did answer the door. Through the door, I did talk to the one guy who was looking for his beagle.
Of course.
And that was the thing they were doing that year. I guess they were driving around saying they lost their beagles, anybody seen it? And then, just as you said, when you were telling that story about going around the back door.
That's how that occurred.
And
That's
I'm
very
way
good.
up. I mean, our house is elevated, so you had to come around the back and come up the second set of stairs to 2 decks. And stay there while the other guy, I thought, pulled out, and then he broke in. So I did go down and identify them, and a trooper came and picked me up and took me down.
Great,
Went to
great.
Poughkeepsie and identified him, and I still know where we found his car down there in one of the complexes. Little white station wagon.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did he leave? How did you get him out?
When I promise you won't judge me. When I walked out and I saw him being in customer service and a manager, I said, "Can I help you?" Crazy, but he literally jumped off the back of my
Oh,
deck
yeah.
and ran through the woods. There was snow, so I think DCI came and they had helicopters in the air very quickly. It was because they were already, I think, engaged in looking for this. So but he ran through the woods, and I watched. I was on the phone with the police, and I'm looking out my front window, and the car came back, probably to get the loot.
Yeah, sure.
And he ran out and got in the car, and off they went.
He had gathered things up?
No, he left right away, because
Oh.
as soon as I saw the
Not
car
enough
pull
time,
out,
yeah.
I walked back down the hallway, and to my living room, and the other guy had broken in as that car pulled out.
Wow.
Really scary.
You ask if anybody's been burglarized here, and I think what you really mean, has anybody here been knowingly been burglarized? And there have been times I've suspected we were burglarized and certain things have disappeared. And I'm thinking in terms of a clever burglar would not tear up your house and take all of this or that or something, but rather go in and carefully take a little of this and a little of that. And the first thing you think is you've misplaced. I mean, if all of a sudden my wife's all of her jewelry's missing, we've been burglarized.
Sure.
If a couple of diamonds are missing, well, she lost them. That's how I look at this.
Yeah, we get that all the time.
You reach into my wallet and take just half the cash. I find it difficult to believe anybody do it, but that would be a clever thing to do. If they took half the cash, I blame myself for losing.
Yeah, and we get a lot of that, and well, that's the person, when you reference diamonds, when did it happen? And are you gonna know? Well, I haven't really worn those earrings in 6 months, so I don't know. And usually, in that type of case that you're talking about, unfortunately, it's gonna be someone who knows you, a relative, a neighbor, a neighbor's kid. And it's clever to do it that way, sure.
I think it's great. I lost one of my handguns for 2 years before it showed up again.
Ransacking your house, we don't see a lot of that anymore. They target specific things.
Going back to this lady's story, is that common? And I think
That's right where I was going. I lost my dog.
right, the losing of the dog, but then also how quickly they wanted to get out of there because someone was in the house.
By and large, burglars are cowards. They're not gonna do it at night while you're sleeping. It's pretty rare, actually, what happened to this lady.
But the pretense is pretty common, you're saying, just knocking and,
I'm just looking for the Jones residence,
and
I'm
if
sorry.
someone happens to answer the door, okay, we know someone's home,
The
let's move
dog-
on to somewhere else.
The dog is very, very, very common. And usually though, if you answer the door, well, no, I haven't seen your beagle, sorry, I'm just gonna go away and go on to the next one.
It was a shocker, because my car was in the garage, and my big German Shepherd, and my two garage doors at the time were glass windows. Now we have solid, so you can't see in, but you could see a station wagon and a German Shepherd banging on those
Yeah,
doors. to
pretty
get to these
unusual.
guys.
Because they're generally speaking, as I said, they're cowards. They don't want to confront you any more than you want to confront them.
Yeah,
They want that empty house, set off from the road where nobody can see them going in.
yeah. And the fact that he took off when I just walked back out into the living room was amazing to me, because my Christmas tree was up, and that's another thing, it was right before the holidays. Maybe they were trying to see if there were things you had bought for Christmas presents, and that was
Christmas
probably the motivation. But yeah, I mean, it was bizarre.
Well, our neighbor was burglarized, and they put they doused the inside of the house with gasoline, put a lit cigarette, just so it would ignite the gasoline in time for them to leave. But our neighbor came home and smelled the gasoline.
I remember that. Was it
Yeah.
that long ago, was it?
No. Aspinwall.
I remember that,
Yeah.
yes. It wasn't, yeah, it
And
wasn't
he
long ago at
knew
all.
where his guns were, and he confronted them and nicked one of them. He was bleeding as he was going across the street, screaming.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I had a neighbor that was burglarized too. I just wondered if there's any of that going around. Somebody came in and removed all the copper piping from, this is a house in Barrytown, Bordeaux.
Big money business nowadays.
Yeah, are you familiar with that?
Happens all the time. I had a kid tell me not that long ago who had done just that. Him and his friends, these are 17 and 18-year-old kids. Go on the internet and look for foreclosures.
Well, this is a house that was for sale.
For sale.
Somebody purchased it, but they hadn't moved in yet.
Right.
And they came in and removed all the copper piping from the basement anyway, I think from the entire house.
Yeah, thousands of dollars of damage, especially if it's in the winter
Uh,
and the pipes, whatever's left freezes and.
yeah.
You want to pick old houses, new houses don't have copper.
So you mentioned also foreclosures, that people will
Yeah,
specifically.
this kid told me, as he was confessing, we just look on the internet and look for foreclosures. We know they're gonna be empty. And they can go in, 2, 3 guys. get into a foreclosed house pretty easily, you know, break a window, do whatever, and they'll go in the basement and they'll cut out all the copper in 15 minutes if they have an idea of what they're doing.
Where do they sell it? Online?
You go to the scrapyards.
Oh.
Scrapyard Kingston.
You go to Kingston, there's a couple in Poughkeepsie, there's one out in the Home Valley.
They weigh
And
it.
coppers, they're getting good money for copper.
So what's the law about shooting somebody if they break into your house?
Is your life in danger?
How do you know?
That's,
You're supposed to ask them, are you being hurt?
if you feel your life is in danger and you are legally in possession of that firearm, that's the best answer I can give.
So
It's
if your
very
life,
complicated, because I've done the women's firearm course in
Mhm.
Dutchess County, and you just don't want to shoot. From what-
No, it's
You can
specified in the New York State Penal Law. If you ever want to look it up online, it's under what they call Article 35. They call it use of force. What kind of force a police officer can use, what kind of force a peace officer can use, and a civilian. And it specifies under what circumstances you can use deadly physical force.
The law is against the victim.
Unfortunately, yes. Even us as police officers, you have to think, really think it hard.
You know, I have a pistol permit, but I don't dare shoot at anybody.
so for a civilian with a legal pistol permit and a weapon at home, the criteria is if you feel your life is in danger.
Basically,
They better be on top of you and raping you.
if yours or someone else's life is in danger.
So someone who's coming through the door, obviously, and you see them,
It's not.
that doesn't constitute it. If they draw a weapon, obviously it does.
Sure.
But then the gray areas in between are the real hard, you know, like millisecond decision making.
Very, very gray area.
Shoot them and then cut yourself and wound yourself and tear your clothes.
Very,
Do
very
anything.
gray area.
So, like, my little 2-year-old son was right with me when I walked into that room.
Mhm.
I don't have a gun, but if I did, and my instinct was this big
Would you have been
person-
justified? I can't say. Probably.
Would something like that go to court and you have to depend on the jury?
It would go to a grand jury first, especially with police. Anytime there's a police involved shooting, it goes to a grand jury, and the grand jury determines, was he right in the way he acted, or should criminal charges be brought against him?
Scary.
So, you know, just in the past year, I think in the city of Poughkeepsie, there was 2 occasions where the officers had to shoot people. And they were completely justified. But what they had to go through afterward, it's horrible. They had to go through this whole grand jury process. And they're thinking, I was doing my job, and my life was in danger, someone else's life was in danger, and now I have to go under the microscope and sit through this grand jury and let them decide my fate. It's scary.
How many homeowners have that happened to, at least during your tenure? I mean, has that happened where they,
I can't specifically recall any homeowners
Okay.
shooting anyone. I know of a few occasions where,
What they use as intimidation is drawing a weapon to try and scare someone to leave without the intent to shoot.
yeah, and they run away. And I've seen occasions where the homeowner, one in particular, I was very young on the job, and these 3 very large men, very larger than me, came home from a hunting trip. Big, burly guys, and they found this scrawny little burglar in their house and beat him to a pulp. And we got there, and they had him tied up with belts, and it worked out. And as far as breaking into your home, as I stressed, they're pretty much cowardly. They're looking for an empty house that can't be seen by neighbors.
What if someone is in need of a heroin fix? Are they more dangerous? If they're inside my home? Or are they cowards
That's-
too?
That's almost all of them. You could say that's
So
probably
they're
almost all of
cowards
them.
too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say, and I tend to agree in a lot of ways, if they want to get in, they're going to get in. Alarms are great. Dogs are great. A lot of people ask me about alarms. I'm not allowed to recommend any specific companies, but I do recommend local. If you're thinking about not get an alarm, stay local. Some of these big, huge companies, you might get it cheaper, but when your alarm goes off, the alarm's gonna go into a call center. And it might be going to some 17-year-old kid in Dallas, Texas, who's sitting there making $5 an hour. Does he really care? And he gets your alarm on the computer and the Jones house, and here's the address, and then he looks up, okay, we send the sheriffs to this house, and then by the time they call us and we go, I just think local is better. Your service is gonna stay local, they know the area.
If you have the medallion from your service, is that a deterrent, just having the medallion on your post?
Oh, like a sign or whatever?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I have these, anybody's welcome to grab them. You can look at them after we're done. It just kind of, people put them on their storm doors or whatever, and it just kind of gives the impression that your house is alarmed.
Okay.
But if I'm cruising the street, and there's one house there and one house there, and that house has the sign, well, I'm gonna go to that house first. So even if it's just a sign or a sticker and not an actual alarm. Or even if what we call an audible alarm is even great. You're not paying for a service. You know, most of them are $20 a month or something like that for an actual service where the police are called. You can have an audible alarm installed, where if the door opens, a window opens, it just triggers a very, very loud alarm, and they're not gonna stick around once they start hearing that siren.
You alluded to before, I just wanted to confirm that are most burglaries rooted in individuals seeking out money to support some substance abuse?
Pretty much, yep. Unfortunately, yeah.
Do they hit the rural or the communities first?
I'm sorry?
Rural or in town?
Rural.
Rural.
They don't wanna be seen, from the road, from other houses. So a secluded house with a long driveway is the first target. And like I said, they'll just drive up, knock on the door. If somebody answers, they're looking for the Joneses or they're looking for their lost dog. Okay, thank you, and they leave.
Should we call 911 when that happens?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Be-
I would
be safe
any
and
officer
sorry.
would tell you, I would much rather come investigate that.
Okay.
And maybe the person's gone and I can't even find them, whatever, but at least come and check out the area, and much rather investigate that than get that call.
There was a young man who claimed to be a Bard student who was going around during pre-election encouraging people to vote. Should I have been suspicious?
If you felt suspicious in your gut. I would way rather check that out than have to deal with somebody's house broken into.
I think it's always obviously better to err on the side of caution and conservatism, but I think what Officer Stelmach mentioned is that even if you really feel there's something, sometimes it's hard. I mean, I think people have a sense of, oh, okay, should I really call 911? And to jump over that hurdle. And I think sometimes people are really scared to. I don't know if that's a
We
sense.
get that all the time.
Right,
And
that
people say,
because
I
it's
knew I should have called, but I
Right.
thought I'd be a nuisance.
It's like, oh, I'm feeling chest
All the time.
pain. Well, maybe it's nothing, but I'm not gonna really do anything about it.
Sure, very similar.
Right, so, oh, you know what, I think there's something here, but to really call 911, that's a big deal.
It's not, it's really not.
And seriously, I think
You would
any
believe.
officer, whether in the sheriff's office, the county's office, local police department, they would rather come to your home and find out that 100% nothing happened and you have nothing to worry about, but are glad to be there, rather than not coming and then finding out 24 hours later that a situation did take place. I don't think any officer anywhere is gonna say, why did you bother calling us? This was trivial, there's no reason to have, et cetera, et cetera. And I think sometimes that goes on in people's minds that, well, what if I called them and they came and nothing really happened, or it was an error? There's no such thing as an error in this. This is not right or wrong. This is playing it safe.
That's why we're out there.
It's not even that. When my husband was ill, he fell, and I couldn't get him up. And I thought, I can't call 911 for this, and I finally did. They said, of course you called.
It's not that big a deal. You wouldn't believe what
So
people
that's
call
what we're
911
here
for. What people call 911 screaming because they lost their internet connection. Or they should write a book down there at the 911 center, because some of it, I've heard a lot of it, and, you know, my favorite program got preempted. I'm not kidding, 911.
It was important.
Yeah, somebody had brought it up, you know, we have a lot of people that come in and do services because many of us at the Woods are senior citizens.
Mhm.
And so kind of people kind of come and go and they go through your house and never really thought of, I mean, look at the things that I leave out. Sometimes we hire the services, sometimes we don't hire the services.
Mhm.
Sometimes they say the job's not big enough or it's too big or whatever. But we leave all kinds of things out. I really think it's important to make sure that you're putting a lot of that stuff away.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on that.
And, I mean, like in my bathroom, I leave medication out, I don't have anybody who comes in, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, we
also
see-
money and stuff like that.
We see a very typical thing like that would be home health care aides.
Mm.
And you might have 6 different home health care aides in your house
Mhm.
in 1 week. And then all of a sudden one day those diamond earrings are gone. And that is really hard for us to track down. We can track down, okay, and then all of a sudden we have a possibility of 10 different people being in your house.
Right. Plus you have cleaning people, you might have rug people, somebody doing smaller services that you might need some repair, and, you know, the plumber brings 2 people in.
Yeah, and I'll bet you somebody, one person in this room at least, had in their top drawer of their dresser or nightstand, where your socks are, your undergarments, whatever, somebody in this room has some cash in that drawer, I'll bet.
Absolutely.
That's where they go first. So,
You said when you call 911, you get either the New York State Troopers or the Sheriff's Office or the town?
depends on jurisdiction.
But who do you get though? Well, which
Who's ever
one?
closest,
Pardon me?
who's ever closest
To your house?
from where you're calling.
Oh. So you don't know who, you don't know if you're gonna get the Sheriff's Office or the Troopers?
Not necessarily, no. You know, and if it was a non-emergency, if you called because, let's just say some kids smashed your mailbox overnight, and you called, you could ask for a particular agency, if you prefer one over the other.
But you get an answering service and they direct the call to one of these places? Or?
Are you asking where your 911 call goes?
Yes.
Isn't there a central
There's a
office?
county 911 center. It's called the Department of Emergency Response. It's
Oh.
located in Hyde Park, down on
Really?
Creek Road. It's what it used to be called the Fire Training Center. Very modern, everything's modern
And then from
technology.
there, they call your
And
sheriff.
they determine where you are. If it's an emergency, like I said, they will poll. They will get on the radio, and they'll say, whatever road you're on. Let's just say you live on Metzger Road. Any police car in the vicinity of Metzger Road in the town of Red Hook. And you may have different agencies answer and say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Who's ever physically closest, especially if it's an emergency, they're going to dispatch that car. If it's a non-emergency and you prefer a specific agency, you can very well ask for that agency.
So are they all on one radio frequency?
We are, yes. We have our own, but we also have frequencies together. So,
My respondents were always the local firefighter volunteers.
Who do you live?
In rural Clinton.
they come out. So I saw a couple heads nod when I asked about money in the top drawer. If they're in your house, if unfortunately they do get into your house when you're out and about, they're gonna go to the master bedroom first, and they're gonna look in those top drawers for the cash. And that's usually where, I call it mad money. I'm guilty of it too sometimes. I have this $100, and I'll just throw it, tuck it under a pair of socks and,
Where don't they look?
closets.
They don't look at closets?
Not often. They might take a quick peek because, for that change jar. that you probably keep on the floor in your closet with all those quarters you've saved for the last 10 years. Be surprised how much money that adds up to.
If they look at her closet, they'd run.
They would trip.
Shoes?
I have a beautiful walk-in closet, and every time I clean my room, I stuff everything in it.
Nowadays, unfortunately, they go into the bathroom and they look at the medicine cabinet, looking for the pills, the painkillers.
Do they ever look in the freezer? Because
I've seen it.
I used to be financial secretary at my church, and I'd have quite a bit of money on a Sunday.
Freezer's a pretty good spot.
And I used to wrap it up and put it in the freezer.
Freezer's a pretty good spot, yeah. Because they want to get in and out, and I'll say it again, they're
Okay.
cowards. They want to get in and out as quick as they can.
Okay, so don't make it easy.
And they're looking in that top drawer for the cash, jewelry boxes. You may have a jewelry box with years worth of beautiful jewelry. Stuff that's most important to you, or the most valuable, or the most valuable, I wouldn't necessarily keep with the other stuff. Find a different, you may never wear it. It may
Do
be
they
so
discriminate between costume and real jewelry? Or are they that smart?
I'd say 50-50. Sometimes they'll just take the whole jewelry box. Sometimes they know,
They want the
they
good
even know
stuff.
what's real gold and silver, and they leave the costume stuff behind.
But what are the circumstances under which they trash your house? I mean, I don't mind a guy, coming into the house, taking a couple $100 in cash and leaving. What I would hate to see is the guy do $1,000 or $10,000
Right.
damage to my house.
We don't see that often anymore. The circumstances, if they had some reason to believe that you had $50,000 in cash stashed somewhere,
Then they would,
if somehow somebody told them, or they had an inkling that you had gold bars hidden somewhere, and they're just really looking to find it.
Well, that's why at the house on Aspinwall was burglarized. They knew he had $5,000 in cash from his dental practice.
Okay.
Somehow they found out.
And when you get into a lot of damage, you're also getting into often younger kids, the 14, 15-year-olds, who are doing it just as much for the rush. And they're not necessarily going to come in and steal your jewelry, but they might be looking for a bottle of whiskey. And then they get in there and the immaturity comes out and they just start breaking things because they're so immature and they think it's funny. But the ones who are the drug addicts, et cetera, who are looking for jewelry and cash, they want to get in and out. Yes?
So supposing you do have a safe, which you use,
Mhm.
how many of them would be actually, do you think would actually be willing to take that safe, a small safe, and take it with them and try to crack it?
I would.
You would?
I would.
They
There's
can
something
carry it.
valuable in there if it's a safe.
Yes, even though it might be a 200-pound safe, they might
If they
walk
can
off
try and
with
get it out, they'll try.
Even a large stand-up person-sized safe, they'll try to get out?
If they can, they might try to, break into it if they can. But if they have the time and the manpower, they might take the whole thing.
They're not gonna take ours.
You don't think so?
They're too heavy.
Well, you got it in.
For like what you're talking about, for a small safe, if you know somebody that has the capability to secure it to the floor or the wall or whatever.
So maybe it'd be better to put the stuff in the gun safe, which is a much
Big-
larger,
Big thing, yeah.
yeah, if you're going away for a period of time.
Do we have stalkers around here? Does that happen? I lived in the city, and there was, in the West Village, and there were stalkers that were going around targeting seniors, and somebody followed me around a block.
Oh,
And
yeah?
I got in and I called, and they picked that person up later in the day because he was targeting seniors.
Not specifically. in
We
the
don't
area.
have it up here though so much. I
Not
didn't think so.
specifically. As far as a burglary goes, a senior might get targeted because maybe you live alone and they know it. And they know you go to St. Christopher every day at 9 o'clock, and they have an hour. That
So
would
it's
be-
more they know that, around here it would be somebody that was spotting somebody and looking for their habits.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And burglary is not unique to this area.
It's every
I've been
place.
dealing with it for my whole career. It kind of goes in spurts in different areas. Right now, we're having a problem out in the immediate area. There's a group, so to speak. It might be one person, it might be 3 or 4.
Are these,
We've had a rash of them.
are these individuals native to the area?
Usually.
Or are they coming up, say, from further south, like from the city or what have you?
Usually native to the area, and they're going to start, they usually start in their own neighborhoods, where they're comfortable, and they know people's. You might have the kid that lives on your street, I say kid, maybe he's 20 years old, but now he's into pills or into heroin, or needs money for whatever reason. They're usually going to start in their own neighborhood. They know the people, they know who's home, when they're home, if they might have money or valuables in the house. Then if they don't get caught fairly quickly, then they'll start branching out a little bit.
Are we, is there anything that we might have in our home that we may be liable for the misuse of it? If somebody breaks into my house and steals some of my medication and kills himself with it, am I liable for that?
I hope not.
Well, I hope not.
I know, this day and age, you have to worry about that stuff.
Now, I'm thinking the firearms, because we, have half a dozen handguns strategically placed around the house.
Mhm.
That, I mean, they're, ready to go. Am I liable if somebody?
The guns are legal.
These are legal.
Yeah, no, you're perfectly within your right
Okay.
to have them there.
At the moment.
But just don't fire them. Have them.
At the moment, there you go. As we said before, if you're suspicious of someone at your door, at your neighbor's door, walking around the neighborhood, driving around the neighborhood, call. And just, if you're looking out your window or whatever and you have a pen, as you're talking, scratch stuff down. It's a blue Ford, it's the license plate, which you still remember, which doesn't surprise me at all, it really doesn't, that you remember that. That was a traumatic event in your life.
Yeah.
Coming face to face with something like that. But a car, a make, a model, the color, the license plate, what the person might be wearing, all these things the police are going to ask you when they get there, or they should be asking you on the phone. We do what we call vacation checks or house watches, if anybody ever need it.
You do
call,
that?
You could call us and say, I'm so-and-so, this is my address, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks, going to North Carolina or whatever, I'd like to arrange a house watch. And they'll ask you specific questions. The description of your house, is there any cars there, are there any animals there? Who's going to have keys while you're away? Who can we call just in case something happens? Is anybody going to be coming in to feed the dog or anything like that? And during that time, patrols will just randomly check on your house. The officer would pull in, just basically walk around the house, check your doors.
Is there a charge?
No, not at all. And it's random. There's no guarantee that every 6 hours somebody's going to check your house, but periodically. So if somebody is looking at your house as a target, and they see a sheriff's car in the driveway, I'm not going to go near that house this week.
What about the police organizations that call up for money?
Most of them are legitimate. If you're so inclined to help the local police, when I say local, county, state, keep it local and verify that it's going to where you want it to go, to the Red Hook Police, the Sheriff's Office, the
I
state
just have a
troopers. But there's so many organizations out there now, and they're pushing.
Yeah,
They're pushing.
I
So
have a
I
policy.
can put you down for 25, right? And before you even open your mouth. How about 50? Do I hear 50? No, it's like an auction. How about 100? How about 100? And they're pushing. Our PBA at the Sheriff's Office, many, many years ago, we do a fundraiser every year, and we use the money for different things in the community. We actually hired one of these fundraising outfits, and it didn't last long because the complaints we got about how pushy they were, And they would demand that people leave cash taped to their doors so they could come pick it up. And it was awful. It was awful. And we got together and we just did away with that. And the way they do it now is they send a mailing out every year.
Well, I tell the phone solicitors, mail me information and
Yeah,
then
we do a mailing and then we put the names of our executive officers right on the list, and it helps because you might recognize at least one of the names. Because all our guys live in the county, in the different communities, and you might recognize the names, so. But call and
Otherwise,
verify.
you haven't gotten a dime from me on a phone call.
No phone calls now, no. And some of these groups, the phone solicitors, they take half the money. They sign a contract with whatever organization they're soliciting for, and they get like 50% of the money. So like you said, go ahead, you told them, send me something in the mail, or,
When the fire department or the rescue have coin drops in the middle of a highway, do they have to have permission to do that? I think that is the most dangerous way to collect money.
honestly, I don't know if there's a legal process that they have to go through.
It just upsets me so much, I won't give them anything.
It gets frightening because
They're right in the middle of the
road,
highway, and they'll
yeah.
get the teenagers, with these buckets, stick them in your window, and they hold up traffic, and if someone's not paying attention, somebody's gonna get hurt. So I just wonder if they have to have permissions, I just think that's the wrong way to collect money.
I'm not sure what the process is, if they need an actual one. I understand their plight, though, the volunteer departments are dwindling.
Make a breakfast, and I'll give them all the money they want. I go to every breakfast around here. But don't put a bucket in my window.
I'll finish up with, I started talking about a new burglar, so to speak. It's probably gonna start in their own neighborhood and work their way out, but it does happen in spurts. You might have a group of houses in Red Hook. Right now, it's quiet. It might go on in Red Hook, and then they'll get caught. Sooner or later, they might break into one house and get caught. They might be fortunate enough to break into a half a dozen, but they're gonna get caught. And then next month, it might be over in LaGrange, another group will start doing that. But by and large, you all live in a great community. You have great services, and it's a safe place to live. And that's about all I have. Anybody has any other questions or comments? One other program I wanted to mention was if you or you know any other seniors, there's a program through the county called Are You OK? And it's an automated call system that comes out of the sheriff's office, where it will call your house once a day. You set the time, maybe just say 7 a.m. And as long as you pick up the receiver, that's all you have to do. If you don't, it'll keep trying, and after 3 unsuccessful times, it alerts us, we will send a car to check on you. It's saved lives in the past.
Is this free?
Yes.
My tax dollar is paying for it? I don't have to pay for $33 a month for Life Alert?
You could use this program.
Wow.
It's called Are You OK? We do it in conjunction with the County Office of the Aging.
That's for Larry.
If you live alone, I can't tell you how many times we have success stories where
Wow. So
the officer will go check on the house, and the car's in the driveway, the person should be home.
Do we
we
call
call
Office for the
relatives.
Aging?
Office of the Aging, I didn't think to bring some applications. They do the applications and process them. I tell an application is a free service, just all your information. The sheriff's office then inputs it to the computer at the sheriff's office, and it automatically dials out every day. And we've had many
So if you're
many
not going to be at
cases.
your home, you alert them?
Yes, you just
Okay.
call ahead of time and just say, hey, this is so-and-so, I'm on the Are You OK program, I won't be here tomorrow, or I'll be out of town for a week. And they just make a notation on the computer.
And if you want your home to be observed while you're out, who do you call?
The sheriff's office. The main number, yeah, 486-3800.
I'm supposed to remember that. put it on, you'll have it there, I'll put it on there somewhere.
Yeah. I have all these materials, feel free. These I particularly recommend. It says Dutchess County Violence Prevention Program. It's not just about violence prevention. There's a variety of resources and help numbers in here.
I just wanted to say, one of your officers helped me a couple of years ago, and I live alone, and nights I would get a call maybe midnight, sometimes it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And it really scares you to death because you think one of your families or, is in danger or something like that. So this went on for quite a while.
And they were just hanging up the phone?
For a while, yes. Well, sometimes this man would say some things, but, I mean, I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I would hang up right away because I knew it wasn't anyone that I knew of. And I let it go for a while, and then I was telling someone, and they said, if you hit, I think it was 67 star 67 or something like that, you could, it shows on your telephone who was calling you. So I did that, and it happened to be a Tivoli number, 757. So on a Saturday morning, I called the sheriff's office, and a nice officer came to my house and talked to me about it, and he seemed to know right away who the person was in Tivoli. And he says, I'll go up there. He says, I know who it is. He says, I'll go up there and I'll talk to him. He says, I'll be back in an hour or so. So he came back to my house, and he gave me his card. I have it on my refrigerator yet. And he wrote down who the man was up in Tivoli. And apparently he was trying to get the sheriff's office. And my telephone number must be near what you guys are. And he was spying on, I guess, Bard College students that were drinking or something, and he wanted to report it to the sheriff's office, but he was drunk too. He's
calling you at 4 in the morning.
So the officer, he wrote this all on my car, all on the card, and gave it to me. He says, if you ever have any troubles or anything, give me a call. So that was really nice.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the phone trap is star 57.
Oh, 57?
Star 57,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Basically, that triggers your phone company to record the information. I don't have as much of a problem with it anymore with the nonsense phone calls, because everybody has caller ID.
Yeah.
And the phones and the texting and all that. But it's star 57, and they trap it, your information on who called you.
Well, he said that he told this guy, he says, if you ever bother that lady again, I'm gonna put you in jail. He says, I really can't do that. He says, but he doesn't know him. So.
Very good.
Well, before we conclude, first of all, I think we should give a round of applause to for graciously coming on a Saturday and the weekend, and just sitting there. I mean, a comprehensive, thorough presentation. If you sit down and think about all the different topics, technology, burglaries, substance abuse, children engaging in activities, et cetera, it was a very, very thorough presentation. So we're really fortunate to have you Wednesday. Thank you ever so much. And I know there's a lot of literature here. Please help yourselves. On behalf of the Senior Services Committee for the Town of Red Hook and also the Town of Red Hook, I want to thank them for allowing us to use the town hall today. I thank all of you for coming to hear what I consider to be a very critical, piece of information that you had presented to you today. Please go and tell people that this will be on Panda. So for anyone that was not fortunate to be here in person, the information will be disseminated through that avenue of approach, which I think we're very fortunate to have that. And otherwise, thank you once again, and one more time, please let's give it up.
And again, I didn't mean to make anybody nervous at all.